Welcome back to Tom's DIY Garage. I am the Tom in the title, as you might imagine. If this is your first time, welcome. If you've been here before, welcome back. Either way, as the name suggests, DIY is about doing things yourself. Making things, fixing things, because it saves you money or it makes you self-sufficient. Both good qualities to have, I think. Before I go any further, I will address the proverbial elephant in the room here. These are my vacation whiskers. They won't last, but as I record this, Mrs. Ziska and I just returned from a trip celebrating our 30th wedding anniversary. A DIY project in progress, if you will. And so far, pretty successful. Not without hitches, what marriage is, but you know, we're still together, so that's pretty cool. But I digress. Why are we here today? As I have mentioned in the past, as seasons pass, retailers love to get ahead of the curve, and so if you look in the stores, there's lots of Christmas stuff for sale. Other holidays as well for the end of the year, but predominantly Christmas. And Halloween, fall stuff is difficult to find, but this is late October as we have this conversation, and Halloween has yet to happen, and the fall season up through Thanksgiving really is yet to happen. So if you can't find stuff, maybe you might want to make stuff. And I saw something, as usual, it's a YouTube video, that I thought would be easy to make. And it comes from a woodworker in Oregon, not sure exactly where. His name is Ronnie, Woodworks by Ronnie, and he made a pumpkin decoration. Let's start by looking. I think it's very easy to make, and I don't think it'll take a whole lot of time. Certainly won't take a whole lot of expense in materials. In fact, if you do this sort of thing, you probably have the scraps around, because if you're like me, you don't toss scraps away. Or you could buy a 2x4. That's the wood Ronnie used, and pretty simple, I think. Let's work our way through it. There are 9 pieces of lumber, 2x4, that will make up this pumpkin. Ronnie didn't offer any specific measurements in his video. If he did, I missed it, which is fine, but I kind of eyeballed the images and guesstimated the dimensions, which is fine because this is a custom piece and I decided how tall I wanted my pumpkin to be. So I have these 6 10-inch pieces. That'll be the body of the pumpkin. 2 9-inch pieces, that's the curved front and back, and then this 12-inch piece will be the center of the pumpkin, and there will be kind of a stem in the middle. So I did all of this out of scrap wood. It's 90 inches of 2x4. If you have to go buy a 2x4, that's one. And since this can be kind of rustic, you can get a fairly inexpensive 2x4. It's just really, depending on the sale that you find, you can get $2.50, $3, $3.50. You really shouldn't have to spend any more than that, but that's your expense in this. It's not bad. This is the rough shape that the pumpkin will take when all of the pieces are situated together. If you look from the top, you can kind of visualize and imagine in a stylized sort of way how round it would appear. But since the cuts are all very squared off, we need to kind of round them just a little bit. So there's a series of 45-degree cuts off the corners here and off the front edges here that will round off the shape of the pumpkin. This will be the stem. We'll get to that last. Here's the progress report after all of those shaping cuts. These are 45-degree angles on each of the corners here. And then there are also these 45-degree angle shaving cuts off the front. Together, it kind of gives the impression of being rounded, which is what we're looking for. This is the back side of the pumpkin, and it's got the same sort of thing going on. Before we can put all of these pieces together as one cohesive part, we do have to cut out the stem from this centerpiece. For the stem, this line represents the top of the pumpkin here, and I just drew by hand what I imagined a stem would look like. To cut this out, I'm going to use this bandsaw here. Another thing I got online several years ago, don't get a lot of opportunity to use it, so here we are. And voila, what I imagine a pumpkin stem might look like for my decorative pumpkin. To connect the pieces together, the design calls for some glue and pocket screws. Really simple, really strong, and pretty quick as well. Just like that. With these pocket holes all drilled, I can put all of the pieces together. Some glue, the screws, maybe a few nails as well, and before you know it, we will have the shape of a pumpkin. So let's get to it. Here's another lesson in not rushing things. This piece I attached backwards. So the finished edge here is supposed to face out. I put it down. So I had to pry it off, wipe the glue off. And can you see all these nails? I gotta pull those all out or cut them off before I can reinstall this the correct way. Pay attention, don't rush. Let your old friend Tom's mistakes guide you. And just like that, you've got a pumpkin. What do you think? Do you see the shape? Do you see it? It's kind of stylized. If you're still having some trouble, you can add some color to it, some paint to jog your memory. And when the paint is dry, you've got a pumpkin. Probably makes a terrible pumpkin pie, but certainly a good pumpkin decoration for the season. I'm fairly certain Mrs. Ziska will like it. She'll be home soon. We'll see what she says. If she doesn't, I like it. You let me know what you think as well. Speaking of let me know what you think, I'd like to hear from you. I like making things. I like fixing things. I like learning how to do things. I bought a welder just before COVID. I still haven't taken it out of the box. I would like to learn how to use it. I think that'll be fun. I have some small engines that don't work. I never learned how to fix a small engine. I count that as one of the deficiencies here. I'd like to learn how to make it work. I have some construction in the house, some decoration stuff that I'd like to do, some shelving, some cabinets. That'll be fun. I also have some decorations for a wedding reception that I have to build. All things you'll see here on Tom's DIY Garage. But let me hear from you. The Facebook, the Twitter/X, the email. Have you got a challenge? Have you got a question? Is there something you'd like to see me fix or build? Let me hear from you, and I'll give it a go. And if I know how to do it, I'll show you. If I don't know how to do it, I'll learn, and we'll learn together. Meantime, I'll keep building these things. The pumpkin, I thought it turned out pretty well. It's pretty stylized. The cost of one 2x4, a handful of screws, some glue, and some spray paint, and you know, about an hour's worth of work, maybe a couple hours once you can factor in the paint drying, and you got it. You could make them to sell. I'm sure if you were at like a fair or a farmer's market, they'd sell pretty well there as well. Something to think about. Or you could just make a house full of pumpkins, a pumpkin patch, different sizes for your house. Imagine a really big one. Anyway, while I contemplate the next project here at Tom's DIY Garage, I leave you to your ideas. Let me hear them, and I look forward to reading them. Until next time, rock on with your bad selves. I'll see you then.